Welcome back, Shalligators. We are continuing our series on Paris Hilton. You guys have been asking for Paris videos for such a long time, and the time is nigh because she's got a new documentary that just dropped. This is Paris, and it's very revealing. It's meant to kind of I don't want to say humanize her, but kind of in a way, and give some dimensionality to this dumb blonde persona that she has cultivated since she was 18. And we already did a video on having that persona, the pros and cons of playing dumb, and my feeling about whether or not she was lying about this abuse. Go check that out. My opinion might not be what you think. But today, we're going to talk about narcissists because I like Paris. I am super in awe of what she has achieved and accomplished, and I look at her as an influencer, as sort of the grand high wizard of influencers, and how she has weathered this career that we do. I mean, to me, is like a little eyedropper full of her ocean compared to her ocean, and I really just have so much respect for her. But she is a narcissist, but I kind of am too. We're going to break down 5 traits of a narcissist that you actually want to borrow for yourself, because there's something to learn and gain from anyone we encounter on planet Earth, even people we don't like, especially people we don't like. So if you come here as a Paris hater or a Shalla hater, you have some things that you could probably learn from people like us. We're going to break those down, and we're going to do more videos on Paris this week, maybe even today. Depends on how much energy I have. If I can get another pumpkin cream cold brew. Do you know that here, I drove to Bozeman for this in Montana, they're out of pumpkin spice. The entirety of Montana Starbucks are out of pumpkin spice, and I'm like, this was your time. This was your moment. You know how many basic bitches there are in Bozeman? A lot. I'm one of them. Anyway, we're going to be doing some more videos, how to date as an alpha female. And even if you don't think Paris is an alpha, you can still learn from it. Can you just go with me? And also how to trust again after being hurt or abused. I know that this is a huge theme of Paris's documentary, the abuse she suffered at the Provo Canyon School. Sounds just awful, awful. And how it gave her endless trust issues. But today we're going to talk about narcissists, because narcissists are so much fun to talk about, right? But first, before we do, click like and subscribe. We do at least 4 videos a week around here. Also head over to Instagram at ShallonXO. You guys voted on these topics. You suggested them. I always crowdsource what you guys want to hear. This is y'all's channel. This is the Shalligator world. I'm just living in it. Also, be sure to find me on InfStream. It's our ad-free, uncensored platform. $2 a month. We get some really raw and real story times, and some even rawer and realer sexy tutorials, because you know what? Our mind is where it needs to be. But let's get our sexual skills there too. Okay, let's talk about Paris. So I watched this whole documentary. I didn't intend, I was like, maybe I'll just read the cliff notes. It sucked me in. I really liked it. Like I said, as an influencer, to get an inside look at what her life is as the queen of influencers, it really was inspiring to me. She was talking about how tired she was, and I woke up so tired this morning. My puppy is up at the crack of dawn multiple times a night. It's like having a baby. And if he's not, then the boyfriend's thrashing around the bed. There's just always something. And I'm just exhausted. And I was feeling sorry for myself. And I'm like, get your shit together. This is your job. Your job isn't to complain about how tired you are. Your job is to perform. Even though I just spent the last 30 seconds complaining about that. It doesn't matter. I enjoyed this documentary because we got to see the positive qualities of narcissism on display. And I've done a video about positive qualities of a narcissist, breaking down Kim Kardashian's personality. And Kim and Paris, they're cut from the same cloth, right? There's a reason they found each other and they were BFF back in the day. Although it is unusual for super hardcore narcissists to have really close friends. Well, no, that's not true, because they need adoration. And my therapist has told me, my old therapist, she said that I was a narcissist with a lowercase n. And I was like, that tracks. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know my shortcomings and I know my strengths. And it is not in my nature to always be ultra empathetic. It is in my nature to be more self-focused. But it's in our nature to pee wherever we want, right? It's in our just free pee. We don't do that. We make conscious choices to pee in places that are appropriate. My puppy does not do this, so I make conscious choices to act differently. right? Even if it doesn't always feel natural, it's about mastery. And that's why we were doing the drinking challenge. I want mastery over every aspect of my life, both my body and what I put in my body, and also my behaviors. So let's go through a bit of her documentary and talk about some of these positive traits, okay? Number 1, believe your own hype. Narcissists their galvanizing trait is grandiosity. This complex that they are better than everyone. Okay. So it's human nature to want to be part of a social structure. We talk about this all the time. Social inclusion needs are the highest need we have as human beings outside of food and shelter, right? If we feel like we're cast out of a social group, it rocks us to our core, which is why like everyone's greatest nightmare is throwing a party and no one comes, right? Are we all not terrified of that? A narcissist, though, doesn't want to be part of a group. They want to be better than the group. They want to be like the king of the group. We see this obviously with Paris. I mean, she refers herself many times, and other people refer to her as like the queen of the influencers. That's what I call her. And I understand that. It's like, I don't want to be accepted by the YouTube community. I don't fucking care. I don't know like any other YouTubers. This is all output for me. And I have that attitude because of my latent narcissism. I'm not part of you. I'm better than you. I mean, I am, but yeah, whatever. I believe my own hype. I believe my own self-created hype. And in Paris, we see this as being rooted in how her family treated her. They gave her what's kind of known as a messiah complex. A lot of cult leaders have this. A lot of only children have this. And a lot of like very rich kids and like very pampered, entitled kids have this messiah complex. Paris said that her grandmother called her like Marilyn Monroe, Lana Turner. You know, just her nickname as a child was Star. Because she was just such a star. You're such a star. And that influence, I think that shaped her greatly because it gave her this God complex of like, yeah, I am a star. Everyone loves me. Everyone wants to be me. I'm better than everyone else. I might not be a dick and say that, but I kind of don't need to say it because I'm better than everyone else, right? Like she's got the vibe. She's a very entitled person. And I mean, she's become much more diplomatic as she's gotten older. But back in the day, Paris, holy shit. I mean, she was like, she was on a rampage calling people like lower than her. I mean, she was not a politically correct person. She was messy. I loved it. But the downside of that is that you feel locked into these expectations. I'm an only child and I was very like overloved in some ways. Like I was the cleverest, the prettiest, the smartest, the funniest. And I was like, I know it gave me some narcissism, but it also locks you into this track of greatness. You will not fail. You just won't. Your whole life is going to be about acquisition and achievement. That's it. And I remember, and part of this was also like the town I grew up in. I mean, I grew up in Irvine, California. It's an incredibly affluent, successful town. I mean, kids at my high school, they didn't have 4.0s. They had 5.0s, 5.3. Like, you even know that's possible? It is. So the bar was extremely high. And I remember one of my best friends, we grew up together there. She was saying that her parents are giving her this like guilt trip over not having kids. I understand that for sure. And she finally said to them, she's like, do you know what you raised? A nerd. And what do nerds do? We work. We produce. We don't go to MIT, Georgetown, Cal Poly, and then come back and just birth. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not what we were bred to do. We were racehorses. You don't take us to a kiddie fair and wonder why we're not just the pony going around and around. This isn't what we were bred to do. So there's the downside of the messiah complex. But I want you to look at the upside. I want you to believe your own hype. And if you don't have that messiah hype, I want you to fucking create it. I want you to sit and write a story. I want you to write a story like you're writing a bio of a celebrity for a magazine. Like, you know how when you look at a magazine, my favorite part of like a celeb on a magazine cover is when they do the behind the scenes. Like, she arrived wearing her juicy sweats and playing Prince. She ate spaghetti and meatballs for lunch before kissing all the staff goodbye and gifting everyone with bracelets. I just like that. Like, I like that behind the scenes hype. Write that about yourself. Hannah grew up in a small town, but soon realized her talent was too big for Potato, Iowa, right? I want you to cultivate some self-mythology, positive mythology. And I want every aspect of this mythology that you create to be directly countering something negative you either believe about yourself or people have said about yourself, right? Said about you, not said about yourself. Number 2. This is going to be a hot take. It's going to be a hot take. The shallow haters are going to love this one. I want you to dial down your empathy for other people. I want you to ignore the needs of others a little bit more. When I talk to you guys, when you guys submit questions to me, you know what I get? You know what I hear more than anything? Love. I hear love. I hear empathy. And I hear the cacophonous hemorrhage, the tidal crash of energy flowing out of you. That's what I hear. I hear this drain. I hear an arterial gush of energy away from you and onto people who don't fucking deserve it. Whether it's a fuckboy, whether it's your bitch ass sister, whether it's a best friend who suddenly decided she's an asshole and isn't reciprocating your friendship back. Maybe it's a job that is kind of going nowhere and you're hustling and the writing is on the wall. The people are simply going to keep holding you down. I want you to dial down how much you care about people like that. Sounds like a you problem. I'm sorry, I can't fix you. If that's the way you want to act, that's fine. Decisions have consequences. I'm out. Energy is currency. Energy is currency. If you had a pile of money, you would be judicious about where you spent it because you know when the money's gone, it's gone. Why are you spending your energy in any kind of different way? Narcissists don't. They spend it on themselves. I'm so sorry you're having a bad day. I can't talk right now. I have to film a YouTube video. Let me call you later. It's not, oh gosh, let me drop everything. Oh, whatever you need, let me morph into that person. No. You know why? Because I'm rereading my own self-mythology 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. And I believe it. I believe my own hype. I buy into it. I create it. And therefore, my energy expenditure is penny pinching. I am a tightwad with energy. I am frugal as fuck when it comes to my emotions. You earn it if there's a return on investment for me to buy this product with my energy. Great. You can have it. This is a worthy expenditure. I'm splurging on this person, on this scenario, on this empathy drain. Because I know I'm going to get something good in return. I know I'm going to have loyalty from this friend because, hey, she's there for me. So I'm fine spending on this. I know that if I plug into this guy, he's earned that by showing me through his behaviors and consistency. He's worthy of my emotional currency, right? People who aren't, sorry, ugh. We as women are hyper conditioned to plug into everything. Every fucking thing. We're nurturers, we're lovers, we're daughters. Be a narcissist. Unplug. Paris has no kids. And she talks about, I loved this scene with Nikki. And they're like playing with Nikki's daughter. Nikki was like such the voice of reason. She was like Plymouth Rock in this thing. I loved her. I've met Nikki before. She's really cool. She's kind of awkward in person, but because she isn't like Paris, like with this bubble of charisma. Anyway, Nikki was like, do you even want to get married and have kids? And Paris is like, she didn't have a very clear answer. And like that resonated with me so hard because it's like no one wants to be alone. But Nikki said something like, if you marry, no, Paris said this. She's like, to get married is to have to grow up. And Nikki's like, and you don't want to grow up. And Paris is like, no, I don't want to grow up. It's not that it's growing up. I mean, it is. It's, I now have to think about somebody else. Now this is a 50-50 partnership, right? And narcissists don't love that. And Paris talked a lot, or I can't remember who was saying it. Their voices sound the same. That, Nikki was like, you don't want to date a little, like a beta. And Paris like, yeah, like a bitch boy who's just going to follow me around because then I lose attraction right away. They get emasculated and then things go really left. And we're going to expound on this more in the how to date as an alpha. But Nikki's like, yeah, you need to date your equal, but you can't control an equal. And that, wow. Do you know how many times my mother has said this to me? She's like, you want to be in charge. You want to be in the driver's seat. And so you get frustrated when you're dating an alpha and he's like, no, we're not going to do that. This is going to be a 50-50 thing. And I'm like, But then you get even more frustrated when you date a beta who you're just leading around by the teeth because you don't have any respect for them. Like, oh, mom, stop being so right. But Paris, I think her narcissism is manifesting in like, yeah, she's ignoring the needs of others. She's not plugging in and getting married and having kids. She is owning her narcissism. I don't want to do that. I want to focus on me. I want to go to Mykonos. I want to make $1 million. Good for her. Let's borrow a little bit of that. Number 3, cultivate charisma. Let's see. Charm is warmth and warmth is access. Charm is warmth and warmth is access. When we think of warm people, they're inviting us in. Hey, I remember your name. I remember small details about you. What's up? Come on in. You look great. It's warmth. It's eye contact. It's mirroring, right? And that is part and parcel of charisma. Now, I don't perceive Paris as being particularly warm or accessible, but she has charisma, and that is part of her self-mythology. We are drawn to people who love themselves, right? That is a hallmark of a leader. Because why? We want to feel that. We want that social inclusion. And what does that create? A hurt locker. A hurt locker, if you're new to this channel, is what we call people in whom we store our hurts, usually a guy. It's someone we get very twisted on, we can't get over it, somebody we probably didn't even date, you know? And it's because they embody not someone we want to date, someone we want to be. Someone we want to be. So be a hurt locker to the rest of the world. Not in a bad way, you don't want to hurt people. But you want to be that exemplar that everyone is like standing by, the warming light that people are cuddling up to, right? Because you're warm and they're cold-blooded. And we do that by recognizing why we're vulnerable to hurt lockers. My biggest hurt locker, I've talked about him before, was very driven, very humble, tons of self-mastery, and I, at the time, was doing none of those things. None of those things. So I was obsessed with him. If you saw him naked, you would also understand why. But I was obsessed with him because I wanted to be him. And I only broke that hurt locker spell when I faced that I didn't want to date him. I wanted to be him. And then cultivate those traits for myself. And my career took off. My relationships took off and everything shifted. My friendships got better. My body got better. Everything got better. But we have to look that in the face. Number 4, never be embarrassed. I have said this about Paris Hilton like for years, that she is always like my unembarrassable idol. I go into a lot of like scary social situations. I mean, not as many now that I live in Montana, but kind of, because now I'm like starting over and making friends from scratch. Whereas in New York, like I had a whole crew, but I was going into very intimidating, you know, environments, parties where there's fucking a Hadid over here and a Styles over there. And it's like, it was a lot to take. And I would zip myself up into a suit of somebody else's armor, into a persona of someone else. It was either Paris Hilton or Kourtney Kardashian, because Kourtney embodies just that, like, I don't give a fuck, I'm chilled out, like, confidence. And Paris embodied an absolute lack of being embarrassed. And we saw much more depth in terms of this in her documentary. When she was talking about her sex tape, you could just feel how much it hurt her. I mean, she was 19. You know, that's crazy when you think about, like, if there was a 19-year-old girl now, like, and she said herself, she's like, this wouldn't happen today. Like, this would have gone a completely different way. The girl wouldn't be the bad guy, it'd be the man. But back in the day, you know, it was fucked up 20 years ago. But outwardly, at the time, that's hot. What was that? It was like nothing. The only time anyone ever like saw her bleed is when she had to go to prison or jail and she was crying in the back of the car. Like, even after that, when people were making fun of her, she was just like, whatever. She was just brushing everything off and she was bleeding in private. And that is a huge aspect of a narcissist. Like, oh, you think that was weird what I did? I actually think it was amazing. How that manifests privately. Like, an extreme narcissist is actually going to feel that way. It's like, so what that I did that? At least I tried. You didn't do anything. I kind of like that motto, right? People who are embarrassed because they've tried something and they failed. Well, I mean, at least they tried, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, said Michael Scott, said Wade Gretzky. So When I see someone who's embarrassed, I'm like, dude, good for you. It's like when I see someone who's getting divorced, I'm like, you go. Not that I'm pro-divorce, but I'm pro-changing your circumstances. I'm pro-growth. And if you are embarrassed about something, it's because you've tried. And fortune favors the bold. So I want you to go out there and try and practice acting non-embarrassed. Try, fail, move the fuck forward. And because here's the thing about being embarrassed. If you call attention to it, everyone else will notice it too. But if you brush it off, it's a non-issue. Like, this is what we've talked about before, like moving on from scandal or bad reputation. I always say, like, celebrities, when they apologize for something, it's the worst possible thing that they could do. First of all, it gives the people who are coming against them power. It's like, oh, look, we could just badger her into submission. We can just badger her into, like, doing whatever we want to do, whether she's sorry about it or not. No. Really not my vibe. I don't apologize for the things I am sorry for. You think we're going to apologize to, like, the faceless Twitter get the fuck out of here. But if a celebrity doesn't speak on something, and if they don't act embarrassed, people move on. And that is such a great example to draw from in our own life. It's like, okay, you tripped in the hall. If you're like, oh my God, did you see I just tripped? My dress went over my head. Then everyone's going to be like, oh my God, no way. If you're just like, okay, and I'm walking, I'm getting up, I'm literally dusting myself off, and I'm walking. And everyone else keeps walking too. So borrow a little of that from Paris. Be unembarrassable. You can go home, or you can go in the bathroom and be like, oh, my dress is over my head, my dress is over my head, oh my God. Ugh. And you can bleed in front of the people who you trust and you love. You do not bleed in public. A narcissist will not let you. Last but not least, Paris had an excellent quote. She was talking about why she never really addressed this abuse and everything. Girl, get a therapist. We'll talk about that in the video on how to trust. But she's like, I always just kept looking ahead. I never talk about the past. I never think about the past. I just move on. I just keep it moving. I like that. And how does that relate to a narcissist? Because if a narcissist would have to look back at the past, whenever any of us look back at the past, what do we think? Oh God, I should have done this differently. I'm so stupid. How did I let this happen? I'm so unlovable. It's never positive self-talk when we ruminate about the past. Never. And a narcissist simply doesn't engage in that behavior. Why would I look back and tell myself that I did something wrong? I don't do things that are wrong. I do things that are great. I'm great. I'm a star. So why would I look back? I'm only looking forward. Because I'm looking forward because I'm going to do more great things because I am great. How is that wrong? How is that not an incredible motto for living? That's what I want you to borrow. We're not looking back at the past. It's over, bitch. It's over. We're looking ahead. You notice how Paris never talks about her exes and she never gets back together with them? That is part of narcissism. I've already seen who you are. You don't respect me. You don't buy into my mythology. Bye. I'm moving on. I'm going to find someone new who does worship me. Oh my God, I'm addicted to that new worship. Great. And I mean, that could obviously be a very slippery slope. But in terms of leaving behind toxic situations and refusing to ruminate on them, well, that's great, right? Now, I wish she would do that a little bit more with the traumas in her life, but trauma is not the same as an ex-boyfriend. I mean, obviously they can be one and the same, but I hope she gets some therapy. She should do like 30 days inpatient therapy. Dude, that would be amazing. Amazing. Just 30 days of just clearing out those emotional cobwebs, yanking out those psychological splinters. That sounds incredible. I should do a partnership with emotional rehab. That would be great. Wouldn't that be great? I'll figure out a reason to be there. Pumpkin spice addiction? Rehab for basics. So to recap, I want you to believe your own hype. I want you to dial down your empathy and stop plugging into everyone who might need help or need your attention. Spend your emotional currency wisely. I want you to cultivate a cloud of charisma by revisiting your mythology all the time. All the time. I want you to stop being embarrassed. Practice not being embarrassed. Practice brushing it off. Practice being bulletproof. It's like anything else. You literally have to practice to be good at it, right? And last but not least, I want you to look ahead and not behind. We're going to keep breaking down Paris's documentary. Tell me if you guys have watched it. Tell me what you think. But yeah, we're going to do a video on how to date as an alpha, like how to date when you're a successful woman. How do you find someone who is your equal, and how do you, it's not just finding them, it's how do you make that relationship work? Have I been down that road. Also going to do how to move on and trust again after some trauma. Click like and subscribe, and like I said, find me on Instagram at ShallonXO. See you later, Shalligators.